Hello. Um, Hi. Welcome to the very first OSA Global Exchange section. I am Wan Rongwei. For those who don't know you, I am the Executive Director of OSA. This year, we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of OSA headquarters relocating to Taipei, Taiwan. That is why this year we are having a series of events. And today we have three speakers with us. So the first one is the treasurer of the Irish Society of Production Designers, Zia Branching Holly. Can you wave and say hello?
Hi there, hello.
Hi. And then the second one is the chair of the Sinolab Australia, Malin Tyler.
Hi, everybody. Lovely to see
Hi.
you all.
And then the third one is chair of the Sweden OSA Center, Johan Mansfeld. Hi, Johan.
Hi there. Hi there.
Right. So today we have a 90 minutes section. What we're going to do is I will do a short introduction about OSA, and then each speakers will have 20 minutes to introduce their OSA center and their events, their activities, and their viewpoint of what is important to participate in such a global network such as OSA. So let's get started. Right. OSA stands for International Organization of Scenographers, Theater Architects, and Technicians. We are founded in 1968 in Czechoslovakia. Originally, we were an organization of scenographers, theater architects, theater technicians. Throughout the years, we expand ourselves. So we do have theater educators, researchers, and managers. So you could say, what is OSA? OSA is a global network of theater makers celebrating design and technology in live performance. In OSA, we have 10 subcommissions and commissions. I've listed them all in the slides. We have architecture commission, we have research commission, we have publication and communication commission, we have technology commission, and we have education commission. If you look into the Performance Design Commission, under Performance Design Commission, we have 4 sub-commissions. They are costume design, sound design, lighting design, and space design. So OSA is the international network that has members in over 57 countries. The way we collaborate is we bring our ideas and innovations to commissions. In commissions, you will be able to meet others from different culture and different countries who might share the same passion and same ideas with you. I do think that is the beauty of being an OSA member. For now, we have over 30,000 members in over 57 countries in over 5 continents. And then the biggest project we do as an OSA is world stage design. So there are 4 projects underneath that. The first one is International Theater Design Exhibition. The second one is CineFest. It's a festival celebrating scenography. And we have Technical Invention Prize and also Theater Architecture Competition. So throughout those 4 projects, we really bring together theater designers, architects, and technicians. So we just have, no, well, I couldn't say just, but last year we had WSC 2025 at UAE. So the next WSC is gonna be in Berlin in 2029. So it's been a long time that after years of communication and efforts, I'm very happy that we are bringing world stage design to continental Europe for the very first time. So it will gonna be in June. Mark your calendar if you can. So a brief history about OSA headquarters. I have mentioned that OSA was founded in Czechoslovakia in 1968. And then in 1993, the headquarters moved to Amsterdam. In 2006, the headquarters moved to Taipei, Taiwan. And here's the team of OSA headquarters. We are all in this meeting room right now. I'm Wan Rong. I have a colleague, Isan, and also my colleague, Shirun. Okay. And then this is the elective leadership of OSA Executive Committee. So you could see your hand. I'm happy that we had Johan be our executive committee for this term, for the term of 2025 to 2029. And this is the chairs of all the commissions and subcommissions. So basically, this is what we do. We bring members together to share ideas, innovations, and together we could create something interesting and fun and beneficial for the global theater community. Here's the QR code for the link tree. If you are interested in Oyster, scan the QR code, you'll learn more about Oyster. All right, that's my short introduction about Oyster. Let's give the mic to Zaya. The floor is yours.
Hi there. I'll just share my screen. Once you finish, I think you'll need to finish sharing and then I'll be able to share my presentation. Hopefully you can all see that, hopefully. Is that sharing okay?
Yes.
Yes. That's great. So good afternoon, everyone, or good morning or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. My name is Zia Bergen-Holly, and I am the Treasurer for the Irish Society of Performance Designers, or ISPD. It is a genuine privilege to speak with you today. We're delighted to have recently become a member of OISTAT and to be able to take part in this global exchange. Our chair, Molly O'Cahan, extends her apologies for not being able to speak with you herself today. Ireland has a rich, deep tradition of performance, from ancient oral storytelling by the fireside to today's theatrical stages. As theatrical traditions have developed, design has become an essential part of visual storytelling. In every production, there are designers shaping the worlds in which these stories are told, and the ISPD exists to support, advocate for, and celebrate those designers here in Ireland. Today, I will share who we are, what we have achieved, our vision for the future, and why we are excited to be a part of OISTAT. The Irish Society of Performance Designers is a professional organisation created and run by designers for designers. We serve as the unified body for performance designers across the entire island of Ireland, spanning both the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. Our membership is diverse, ranging from emerging graduates to seasoned professionals. We represent set, costume, lighting, sound, and video designers, as well as those in props, scenic painting, installation, and hybrid forms of design. Many of our members are multidisciplinary, moving seamlessly from theatre and opera to film, music, festivals, dance, and site-specific work. ISPD operates as a networking hub, providing opportunities for designers to connect socially and professionally. We are a community that seeks to share information, skills, and opportunities. Our vision is clear: for Ireland to become a centre of excellence in performance design, where designers enjoy fair remuneration and sustainable careers. Our mission is to support, promote, and advocate for these designers, ensuring they have the resources they need to thrive. We are proud to be an inclusive, independent, and member-led organisation. Our timeline of our history and evolution: the ISPD was formally founded in 2016, emerging from a growing network of designers who recognised the need for collective action and representation. The initiative was instigated by the Irish Theatre Institute, or ITI, following their leadership in presenting Ireland at the Prague Quadrennial, or PQ, in 2007. PQ 2007 was the first time that Irish designers were showcased on such a prestigious global platform. Ireland's participation in the Prague Quadrennial proved to be a valuable opportunity to promote and develop the profile internationally of Irish design for performance. In 2015, ITI collaborated with the Year of Irish Design 2015, a government initiative, to highlight and document Irish design for stage and screen, a sector often underrepresented in design discourse. To coincide with PQ 2015, Irish Theatre Institute launched a specialist microsite, an online portfolio of design for stage and screen in Ireland over the years 2007 to 2014. Following the 2015 initiatives, ITI convened a meeting of designers to establish a permanent organisation. Originally named the Irish Society of Stage and Screen Designers, ISSSD, the society was born to ensure a regular Irish presence at international events like Prague Quadrennial. In 2022, through a democratic vote by our membership, we changed our name to the Irish Society of Performance Designers. This shift better reflects the nature of our membership, encompassing all professions within scenography and performance. Last year in 2025, our latest evolution was becoming a member of OISTAT, and it's lovely to be here. The ISPD committee is composed of between 8 and 12 dedicated professional designers at varying career stages. We're all volunteers elected to committee by our membership. We strive to maintain a balance of gender, diversity, and discipline, ensuring all island representation. Every committee member plays a vital role in our success. Our work is guided by 4 core principles. Advocacy, we strive to raise the profile of sonography professions and advocate for fair pay and working conditions. Excellence and innovation, we set standards for visual rigor and best practices to deliver the highest value for our members. Integrity, we treat everyone fairly and equitably, managing our affairs with transparency. And sustainability, we are committed to social and human sustainability, championing inclusive and accessible environments. Our membership is growing steadily. We now represent over 100 designers working across both the Republic and Northern Ireland. From urban centres like Dublin, Belfast, Galway and Cork to rural towns and villages all across the country, our members work in varied contexts, often balancing local practice and international touring. Inclusivity is central to our ethos. We are committed to representing artists of all backgrounds and to working in both the English and Irish languages. Performance design can be an isolating project-based field. That is why our community connections are vital. Our quarterly editorial newsletter keeps our members informed, celebrating excellence and promoting connection. We gather regularly to discuss current issues, share resources, and strengthen our collective voice. Since our founding, we have launched numerous initiatives to serve our community and its goals. We regularly program talks, skill sharing sessions, and networking events, creating vital opportunities for Ireland's designers to exchange knowledge and spark collaboration. We have run assistant designer programs in partnership with institutions like the Abbey Theatre, which is Ireland's national theatre, the Gate Theatre, Druid Theatre Company, and Irish National Opera. We have also contributed to vital research, including the Pay and Conditions Survey with Performing Arts Forum, which helped expose the economic challenges facing freelancers in our sector. We also run volunteer peer-to-peer mentorship programs. We have successfully organised national exhibitions alongside student exhibitions at the Prague Quadrennial. In 2019, we presented an exhibit entitled Design and Destroy, an exploration of Irish design through the medium of virtual reality. And in 2023, we presented The Next 4 Years, which was a conversation about the future of the Irish theatre industry. The next 4 years comprised a film, a publication, and daily conversations between artists that explored ideas, challenges, and opportunities for the future. It challenged the designers of today to imagine the theatre of tomorrow. And now we're looking ahead to PQ 2027. We have hosted professional development initiatives like the Stage Left podcasts. Each Stage Left episode covers different aspects of sonography and its processes, with designers from all disciplines at a variety of stages in their career. You can find a link to these podcasts on our society website, so go on and have a listen. They're great. We've hosted a range of sonography masterclasses in all different areas of design, both in person and online, since 2021 right through to today. Here are some recent photos of our illustration and digital drawing masterclass with Neil O'Driscoll, one of Ireland's leading video designers and illustrators. Neil recently designed the projections for The Cunning Little Vixen, an Irish National Opera production. As part of our masterclass programme, we've hosted a series of Meet the Maker events to highlight the work and craft of the makers who work alongside designers in our industry. In the spirit of networking and staying connected with our fellow designers, we host events like Join the Dots, a series of informal nationwide meetups for performance designers and theatre makers in Ireland to socialise outside of the high-pressure environment that we often find ourselves in as a community. So to recap, our key initiatives have been our designer network social gatherings, our assistant designer and mentorship programs, our PQ exhibitions, our sonography masterclasses, and the Meet the Maker events and our Stage Left podcast. Looking ahead, our 2027 programme is our most ambitious yet. Firstly, we are preparing for the Prague Quadrennial National Exhibition 2027. PQ is the largest and most significant international event for sonographers. Ireland has participated consistently since 2007, and we aim to continue showcasing our national excellence there. Second, we're continuing to champion our assistant designer and mentorship programs. These programs provide unique hands-on opportunities to learn from senior designers. Past assistants have worked with Ireland's most prestigious designers, including Sinead McKenna, Catherine Fay, and Paul O'Mahony. This provides access to large-scale productions that would otherwise be limited to emerging designers. Thirdly, our masterclasses. In 2027, we will endeavour to create deeper, engaged learning by collaborating with the Lear Academy, the National Academy of Dramatic Art at Trinity College. We aim to run workshops over a longer period, creating a cohort of highly skilled designers at the forefront of technology. Finally, but not lastly, the Designer Network. At the heart of ISPD is our community. We are expanding our social gatherings and partner events to ensure regular opportunities for designers to meet. To give you a bit of an insight into the theatre landscape of Ireland in general, the most recent Arts Insight Survey 2025 indicates that broadly there is a huge appetite for the arts as a whole in Ireland. There's a powerful, widespread belief in the cultural benefit of the arts. When talking specifically about theatre, the same survey indicated that 20% of Irish people attend at least one theatrical play in a 12-month period. The vast majority of professional theatre activity and ticket sales is concentrated in Dublin, our capital city, which has a population of over 1.3 million. It hosts the Dublin Theatre Festival and the Dublin Fringe Festival, which take place back-to-back in September and October, causing somewhat of a bottleneck in productions, but definitely energising the city and drawing in crowds. Dublin is also the main touring stop for international productions coming to Ireland. Cork, Belfast and Galway, these cities have the next highest concentration of theatre venues and audiences. Cork is a major hub for the Cork Midsummer Festival and the Cork Fringe, while Galway is renowned for its Galway International Arts Festival and the Druid Theatre Company. Belfast is home to the Lyric Theatre, an award-winning producing house. Previous awards include the Stages Theatre of the Year Award and Team of the Year Award. Many rural areas and smaller towns have limited access to professional live theatre, relying heavily on touring companies, community groups, or travelling to the nearest city. The Performing Arts Forum notes that 12% of respondents felt that there were equal opportunities to attend arts events regardless of location. So this highlights a significant geographic disparity. Regional attendance is described as hand-to-mouth by some directors, while local festivals like the Galway Theatre Festival or Cork Fringe draw significant crowds. We tend to be a festival-focused industry, with theatre festivals nationwide spanning nearly the entire calendar year. Public funding, the Arts Council, this is the cornerstone of support, providing grants to professional theatre companies, festivals and individual artists. Funding is typically project-based or core-supported, though the amount has often been described as insufficient to cover rising costs. City and county councils also play a significant role. Despite the limitations in funding, there is a thriving and energetic theatre scene with vibrant and diverse work coming from a range of prominent companies, such as the Abbey Theatre, Ireland's national theatre, and the Gate Theatre, both producing a mix of classic and contemporary works. And Rough Magic Theatre Company, producing new Irish writing, reimagined classics, and contemporary international plays. Druid Theatre Company, which produce large-scale touring productions with a focus on reimagining classics and premiering new work. To commercial theatre companies such as Landmark Theatre Productions, who bring in big audiences through big names like Siobhan McSweeney, Cillian Murphy, Brendan Gleeson, and Gabriel Byrne, to name a few. Then there's more contemporary and innovative companies such as Dead Centre and Pan, both known for pushing the boundaries in technology, storytelling and design, and who showcase their work regularly at international festivals to acclaim. That is just a number of, like a small kind of glimpse of kind of the many theatre companies working in Ireland at the moment. But writers have always been and continue to be the main focus of the development of the majority of new work in Ireland. We're famous the world over for writers such as Beckett, Friel, Yeats and O'Casey, and supporting new writing continues to drive the money and the resources that are put into theatre in Ireland for the most part. But as we continue to see Irish theatre grow domestically and internationally, ISPD, as the representative body for designers, want to see designers thrive at the core of new work and ensure that there are opportunities for international connection and growth. This brings me to why we are here. We sought to join Oistat because we share your belief that design is not just a technical craft. It is an art form in its own right. It is a global language that transcends borders and reminds us that storytelling is a shared human need. Through Oistat, we hope to give Irish designers a more visible role in international conversations. We believe in reciprocal exchange. We have much to gain from global conversations about best practices, and we have much to give by adding our distinct Irish voice to the global network. Being part of Oistat gives our members a platform to access international industry experts, current innovations, and global sustainable practices. Many of our members have already engaged with events like the Prague Quadrennial and World Stage Design as individuals. Now we want to participate as a unified national voice. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you
If
so
you'd like to,
much.
and if you'd like
Thank
to find out any
you.
more, you can have a look at our website and our social media. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I will give the floor to Cinelab Australia. Madeline, you have the floor.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, so hopefully you can see my screen, or you should be able to see our logo writ large. Has that come up? No?
Not yet.
Oh, poop. Okay, hang on one
Not
second.
yet.
There we go.
Yeah, here we
Yes,
go.
yes, great. Okay, excellent. Hi everybody. My name is Madeline Taylor, and I'm the chair of Lab Australia, which is a new hub for performance design education, research and practice, and Australia's National OISTAT Centre, as you probably know. And I want to start by acknowledging that I'm on the unceded lands of the Turrbal and Yagara peoples this evening, and as a kind of nation that was colonized. I want to acknowledge that this unceded land has always been places of uh, design, performance, and with a deep culture that extends back 65,000 years. And I pay my respects to elders past and present and extend that respect for all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander and First Nations people here today. And so the map that I'm going to show you, hang on a sec here, which is a map of kind of Australians, First Nations languages groups from kind of because a lot of them overlap, but it kind of gives you a kind of sense of pre-colonization, the kind of diversity of cultures and communities that were active at that point in time and are still active today. So. Lab Australia is a national collaborative network of researchers, educators, and practitioners, as I said, and we draw on and represent people from performance design, architecture, interior and spatial design, and performance technologies. This included a few images here from the most recent APDG, which I'll talk about in a little minute, awards. So you can kind of get a sense of kind of the works that are gaining national recognition. This one being from a Opera Queensland and Opera Australia co-production and winning an award for lighting design for last year for Paul Jackson. So as a national network, we really kind of focus on anybody who intersects with the concerns of sonography, whether that's questions of space, time, audience, technology. We kind of represent all kind of aspects of production design. And our aim is to foster exchange of knowledge and best practices in our field, with our vision to being to create a vibrant and inclusive community of practitioners and scholars dedicated to advancing performance production, design, and architecture in Australia. And this kind of is carried out through a lot of different activity and networks. And we bring together a variety of specialists across the performance design and sonographic fields. And our real focus is sharing research and pedagogical advances in these areas because we are kind of one of a few bodies that kind of operate in Australia in this space. So our emphasis is really on education and research dissemination and sharing and kind of really being a platform for that. And you can see here another work by one of our members, actually, Tanya Beer, also produced by Kathy Oke and Zena Cumpston, which was part of a festival down in Melbourne in 2019 as an eco-scenographic project, which is a big kind of aspect of Lab's activity due to our membership base, and also because those ideas are kind of being generated through, from Australia, so many of those ideas. We have about approximately 80 members at the moment, and these members are from all over Australia. You can see here, this is kind of a map of where our members are coming from. Fairly international, a fairly national, though yet to kind of recruit anybody from the Northern Territory. And this is kind of really representational of the kind of arts ecosystem that we have in Australia as well, which is very kind of East Coast based, as you can see here, and then also kind of with the big lodge down in Perth because there's a fantastic institution called WAPA that's based there. One of the things that really kind of defines Australia is the distance that it kind of carries across. So this Casino Lab Australia kind of was founded out of being together in other countries. We had an OISTAT center kind of throughout the 80s and then 90s and then into the early 2000s that kind of then dissipated due to kind of just energy, really. And so, but every kind of 4 years or every 2 years, because we have Fest and then PQ, Australians meet overseas and go, oh God, it's so nice to talk to other people who are from Australia about kind of the field and kind of share ideas, share experiences, and then kind of we meet again in another 2 years. And that's it's really kind of ironic, and there's always jokes about at PQ and Xenofests about how the fact that we see each other more often overseas than we do see each other locally. So this photo here is from a kind of Australian theatre sonographers forum that we had as part of the OISAT program at PQ 2003. And so that was kind of the founding. It's from this kind of round table or long boxy tables discussion that we decided to reinstate and kind of try and create an OISTAT Centre for Australia and Senior Lab Australia. So you can see here there's a few members. So we've got myself down the back there, Tessa here, and Tanya, who are all kind of part of that founding collection and kind of now part of the committee. But that was the kind of the momentum is basically having those conversations overseas and recognizing that that is such a lack of having these conversations in our national discourse. And wanting to bring those conversations that a lot of people can't attend because of the cost and distance to our national space. So from that, we created Senior Lab Australia. We now have a management committee of 6 alongside our membership of 80. So I'm the chair, Tessa, who is the founding chair, is now deputy chair, and then we have Tanya and Imogen, who are co-treasurers. Monique is our associate coordinator, and then we have Megan Parker, who's our postgraduate representative. Because we have that research focus, we're very conscious about building up and developing a network of researchers and investing in the new generation of postgraduate students. So we've had one Paula who just finished up, and Megan's going to be our 2026 representative, and then moving forward we'll kind of have further ones as well. And in terms of what we do, we have a lot of activities. So we do curated talks, in person and virtual talks. We have membership meetings, virtual and in person. We have a yearly AGM. We kind of coordinate symposium and conferences in partnership with organisations like the Australasian Association for Theatre, Drama and Performance Studies. So we're kind of basically that's an umbrella organisation with researchers doing all sorts of and academics doing research across all sorts of areas of theatre. And there's a sonography working group that Senior Lab Australia kind of chairs and manages. A lot of networking and research and sharing. We do regular newsletters on updates and opportunities, so sharing those with our membership. And at the moment they're going out monthly. They go up and down. There's definitely a lull over Christmas, but we kind of, as things ramp up, we try and respond to that with regular newsletters, and then also looking at publishing and research collaborations and opportunities. So you can see here, because of our distance, again, a key feature of our operations is doing hybrid or online events. So we're kind of doing a lot of Zoom conversations. Also, as part of our activities at the moment, so this year we're having a focus on monthly online shut up and create sessions. So these are events where we basically encourage our members to come online, spend kind of 2 hours working on whatever they're working on. So it's just a kind of basically to do your first work together to kind of keep each other accountable and kind of build a bit of a network about what people are working on and what we kind of share ideas and information. Alongside these monthly meetings, we have quarterly postgraduate meetings or reading groups. They kind of alternate, so it's reading group meeting that Megan and Paula have set up. And then we're also hosting the International Federation of Theatre Research. Australia is hosting that in July, which is a big deal for Australia. So we're doing some kind of in-person networking events alongside that. Um, Looking for as a kind of as a that's the kind of activities we're carrying out in terms of our goals as an organization. Right now, we're kind of in a fairly new, because we're so relatively new, having been founded just in 2024. Um, we're kind of in a membership growth phase, also trying to set up systems for communication and administration to take some of the pressure off that, and also kind of looking into ways in which we can ask members for dues. So, how we're going to set up kind of income for the ongoing operations of the organization is an area we're working on. Uh, in terms of the kind of organizational environment that we're operating in, there's two kind of key entities that we are partnering or friends with. And this is the Australasian Association for Theatre, Drama and Performance Studies, which I just mentioned before, which is kind of a national body of researchers, or international actually, because it covers New Zealand and Australia. Um, and then the other one is the Australian Production Design Guild, which I mentioned at the start with the awards. And that is a organisation that covers both put live art and live and screen design production designers from around Australia. That's kind of a more industry focused body that kind of really seeks to kind of set things around labour practices, pay rates, recognition, crediting, those sorts of things, advocacy and mentorship. So because we have that guild there that covers a lot of the kind of industry practices of the field, we focus more so on the education and research and partner with them. Quite often we share a lot of membership and we share a lot of kind of information between the two organizations. Um, because of our education and research focus, many of our members are from university institutions. And so here I've got a kind of list of logos of the various members, the kind of institutions that we're representing. Three of the biggest kind of production design training spaces in Australia are WAPA, which is based in Perth, NIDA, which is based in Sydney, and then VCA, which is associated with University of Melbourne. But we also have drama and theatre courses at a lot of different other institutions you can see here. And because of that, we have people who are doing uh, scenographic research and education in those institutions as well. Um, One of the things that I guess I want to kind of just raise in terms of that institutional environment is that there's a kind of a big strain currently happening in Australia all along the pipeline for arts education. So we're seeing that in um, kind of less investment in drama and kind of arts education in primary schools. Secondary schools are have it's also receiving a drop in drama kind of and arts students, but particularly because there is scaling in a kind of exit scores. So the students, when they finish studies in high school, they get a thing called an ATAR. And that score that determines kind of what university courses they can enter into. And unfortunately, if you get an A in a drama class, that's not considered as a similar weight or value to an A in chemistry or something like that, which means that students who are looking to kind of go into particular kind of high ATAR university courses are kind of moving away from doing arts courses because they're being penalized through that. So there's a real kind of issue in our institutions at a high school level where drama courses are kind of getting shut because students aren't doing them because of that weighting issue. And that's flowing into our university sector as well. So between 2018 and 2005, 40 creative arts courses in universities around Australia were cut. So that's basically, we have 40 universities in Australia. Basically, one course from every university was shut. And that's across drama, music, dance, and things like that. But it's kind of really gives you a sense of like the loss of cultural investment that's happening in our tertiary sector. So one of the things we're doing is trying to kind of provide networks, provide information sharing, and can provide advocacy to counter those changes. One of the other things that's kind of really kind of framing our experiences is, the scale, as I mentioned. So we're a country of 27 million with 90% living in cities and towns. So we're very urbanized, and you can see kind of in that picture, there's not much going on in the center of Australia. And about approximately 30% of our population were born overseas. And kind of it's really informed by this great phrase by Geoffrey Blaney, who's what's called the tyranny of distance. And you can see here the kind of scale of Australia in relation to a few different kind of areas of the world. And so all that means that a lot of the arts ecosystems are developed individually, so kind of based around particular centres or cities and towns. And one of the reasons that we're excited and enthusiastic about joining OISTAT is to try and bridge these distances internationally. The other thing that's kind of challenging enough the landscape is the funding environment of Australia. So this means that we're kind of, there's a kind of bulk of funding. Over 59% of the federal funding goes to kind of 28 companies who are kind of their funding is ring-fenced. These are generally really large companies, the state-based companies, and kind of national companies like the Australian Opera, the state ballets, the state orchestras, and they're predominantly based in those super urban centres and alongside the East Coast. So there's a kind of imbalance there in terms of where the funding goes and which matches the population, but not necessarily the geography of the country. And then we have kind of state-based funding. So there's quite often legislation that goes into each state about funding that goes to particular named level companies. So Queensland Theatre Company, State Theatre Company of South Australia, for example. So those companies are fairly well resourced, getting a mix of state and national funding. And then we have a very passionate but underfunded small to medium enterprises and organizations which have really struggled because there's no operational funding that's offered to many small organizations. You have to be kind of hitting above non-grant income of 1.6 million in order to get operational funding. So you kind of need operational funding. It's a kind of like catch-22 where you need to be operating as a way of if you're having operational funding before you can get operational funding. So it's all of that funding is kind of project-based and very competitive kind of success rates of around 10 to 15%. So this means that there's a lot of workforce precariety and a lot of unpaid creative developments there. One of the things I think is interesting about Australian space that I kind of responded to when Zia was talking was because of that tyranny of distance and the funding environment. We have a big festivalization of our culture at the moment. And that's kind of been ramping up as times progress. That's partly because funding for festivals has remained relatively consistent, even as other arts funding has been slashed. And also because these large festivals can afford to import local and fund local work, but also global work. So this is how we receive international touring work is most often through festival programming. So there's, as you mentioned, there's a festival for every week, absolutely. and kind of as a real concentration of energy and vibrancy, which also is fantastic for that kind of sense of cultural excitement, but does mean that there's kind of real crunch times and pressures in terms of venues and staff in kind of at those peak times. Just to kind of give you an example of some of the kind of amazing work that's happening in Australia, I'm going to share three theatre companies that kind of that are doing very different spaces. So the first is the always good and internationally renowned Bangarra Dance Theatre, which is a company of professional Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders who are contemporary dancers. And their focus is really on kind of making contemporary work that's inspired by their cultural heritage. And it's been part of the Australian arts landscape for around 37 years. And it tours internationally. So you might have seen them come through your uh, kind of local environment. But they do very vibrant and very beautifully visual dance works. So this one was the terrain was set designed by Jacob Nash, who was involved in the Australian PQ exhibit for the last round, and then costume designed by Jennifer Irwin. And you can see here kind of really striking large scale visuals that kind of is associated with that company. Another theatre company that's kind of hitting the mark on the international stage is Back to Back Theatre, which is a company that kind of engages with disabilities on stage. It's based in Geelong, Victoria, which is a kind of more regional centre. And its work creates work nationally and tours around the world. And it kind of really explores really interesting ideas around politics, ethics, and philosophy. It was founded in 87 as well, so kind of again around 40 years old. And it's currently has an ensemble of 6 actors, all of whom are neurodivergent or disabled. And it's winning fantastic international awards. So it won the Golden Lion at the Venice Biennale in 2024, and then it won the Ibsen Award the year after that. So this work that I'm sharing is called Multiple Bad Things. It was set to costume designed by Anna Accordingly. Zoe Barry did the sound, and then AV was Rhiannon Hinkley, and lighting by Richard Weber. And it kind of does this really interesting development work where the performers are building this kind of space as the players can progressing. And then as a kind of really different piece of work, I want to share Jute Theatre, which is a Cairns, very far north Queensland based theatre company. And it's kind of focused on regional Queensland and really focused on regional artists and community and youth programs. And they do this work with Urbanity Theatre Project, which is trying to build a creative and independent theatre company led by refugees and migrants in the region. So they're basically they're doing these creative development works and kind of professional development works to kind of create a spin-off of Jute that focuses on, it's kind of run by refugees and migrants in the area. And so this one is kind of a fairly kind of more low-key production that's kind of first with all these school students based in a kind of school environment and kind of really talks to Australia's love of the black box theatre. Because we are a relatively young country, we have a lot of black box theatres. So that's kind of an example of how those spaces are used in small budget environments. So that kind of gives you, again, I guess, a little sense of like some of the work that's happening around in Australia. And one of the things, again, that's really exciting about being part of this organization is kind of getting a sense of like what other works are happening internationally and how Australians are work is resonating on an international stage, or where the kind of correlations and interactions are there as well. So yeah, that was me.
Right, thank you. Thank you. I was laughing very hard when you say we are a young country, so we have a lot of black box theater. I was laughing so hard on that one. All right, let's give our floor to Johan.
There you go. So I thank you for all this. I'm presenting a technical theater, technical association, so it's not so much design in this one. And to start a little bit not like Madeline, we have let's see if we can. There you go. We are quite a small country, and a little bit like other countries like Honduras, Portugal, and Cuba, but they are quite small. I would say, yeah, something like that, square miles. Since Sweden is quite large in comparison to the number of people. Lying in the north, in the vast outskirts of Europe, we have pretty much quite big of areas like Madeline where there's no one whatsoever living. And in the sort of coastal areas, there's I think you can see the black spots in Sweden in the middle, and we have Norway and Denmark and Finland, but the black spots, there's where like 2.5 million of those living in Stockholm, Gothenburg, and Malmö. And obviously, there's where the biggest companies that work with theater lives and works. But it's also a way of being sort of a platform of building theater in this country, because you need to have some sort of representation. So in the 40s, there was this concept of people's theater that need to have touring theater companies in an organization called the National Theater. And by that, you have possibility to play theater all around in the entire Sweden, even though the big institutions are in those big cities. And it was also in the 50s when there was a resolution that they should have city theaters. So there was pretty much a city theater in every large city all around in Sweden. And obviously the independent groups, the 70s, of course, started to work. And now there's a multi-performance mix all around. And the little green ring is representing a region in southern Sweden called Småland, and that is where I work. So I work at the Cultural Center of Spira, or Spira in Swedish means both spear and thrive. It's the same word, but different way of interpret. And we have like 100,000 in our audience and 120 people working here. But it's a small region, like I would guess 20 regions or something in Sweden. But that was not what we were supposed to talk about. We were supposed to talk about the STTF. And sorry for this sort of, I mean, Madeline and Sia did really nice graphics, and I'm really into the second to last line, which is the conference by candlelight, which is sort of I start with that. It's a big project for having a big conference at our distinguished stages in Sweden since the 18th century. There was lots of, well, 3 of them in the Stockholm area, and some of them were totally forgotten. And for instance, Drottningholm, that someone might have heard about, was left unseen until 1921, like 150 years in totally oblivion. No, sorry, forgiveness. So I think it was 2018, we started to realize that it would be nice to gather all the people we know in Oystad and in other sort of communities, Perspective, which is a other theater organization, and see what is the candlelight theater. What was it all about? And in those theaters, we have over time realized that candlelight could be dangerous. That we know in the theater world. So through different kinds of tryouts and projects and research, there have been different kinds of solutions to be able to keep the lead away, so to speak. But here in this conference, which is now in 2 weeks, we will have over 100 people at the Drottningholm sharing and learning all about this, since it's a sort of a forgotten environment, because nowadays we do, as Madeleine mentioned, black box, for instance, and that's a nice thing, obviously. But this is a very nice and specific thing. So sorry, but I have been totally wasted about this project, the conference by candlelight, and other things. So it's a bit short and less with images. But STTF is the Swedish Association of Theatre Technicians. Being the Oystad Center, we are obviously embracing all the different kinds of people working with different kinds of things in theater. But having that name, strangely enough, we have mostly theater technicians. And we are like gathering to be able to do meetings and network opportunities like you mentioned before. And since we are spread all over Sweden, we have the same problem, even though it's a little bit smaller, I guess. And apart from that, we're doing the sort of a industry magazine, but in a small level, Proscen, which is distributed to 520 recipients. And okay, they're not members, everyone, sorry. But lots of those are institutional theaters where we know that people will work and people will need to network, and they will gather, and they will go to our events or somewhere else. So I mean, it's been a really tough period after the pandemic, because we were almost 500, maybe 400 before, and then people realized that they need the money for food. They couldn't be a member anymore in lots of different associations. So we are now like 70, 80 plus members, and then we still send these magazines to people because one day they get back to us, we hope. And also it's funded partly by advertising and stuff. So it's not really that we need to keep it short and small. STTF works in different committees as experts in industry investigations. It's been lots about LED lighting now. And we are 50 years this year. It started out like, for instance, me as a technical director, but someone else 50 years ago, realizing that there's no way I can manage to do a course on my own. I need to work together with someone. and maybe someone else know more about linen painting or something more specific. And that was the outburst that sort of started the STF in 76. And nowadays, there's lots of educators, lots of firms, lots of possibilities. And also there have been a change of, as you've been into, funding and resources. So every organization need to be streamlined. Years ago, it was part of the institutional mission to take people in, learn them the craft, learn them the arts and the things they need to do, and sort of lift the entire theater community up. Nowadays, it's very narrow, and it's hard to get into a theater because, sorry, we don't have time with you, for you. So it's a bit tricky, but 50 years or 30 years or maybe even 20 years ago, the climate was quite inclusive. So that's a shame. It's a pity. We also work with the PQ representation of Sweden, both synchronizing the exhibition of countries and regions and also the student exhibition. We have some setback because we have a member of the group, the board that passed away recently. So it's really tricky now, but we continue the work in different ways. I think I should mention also that we work in a project in, for instance, Erasmus Plus, for instance, with the Canon 2 project now. And we really sense that there's a definite lack of technicians in Sweden, and I think it's the same in lots of other regions. And there's lots of different missions and projects to be able to raise that. But after this meeting, actually, I'm into another meeting with another educator that's supposed to do a shortcut to do event technicians. So they need to learn to connect cables. But my problem is that they might not be able to do theater because they only know about on and off. They need to know sort of the sensitive, the look and feel of theater, and that's a bit tricky to learn. You need to be part of it. Since we have this distance thing, we obviously have lots of hybrid meetings, or even only entirely digital meetings. But something that have been really good is that we have had digital backstage meetings. So, I mean, if you've been on the top floor in the theater, realize you can't really be much more than 3 or 4 people there. But having a digital backstage tour, you have 40 people around. And we also have the possibility to visit the northern Sweden digitally, and being able to sort of be the first technical colleagues that going backstage, since it will be hard to get there because it's so far distance. Yeah, I just want to briefly give you some images from the Drottningholm since we have the opportunity. This was the background image that was sort of dimmed out. Drottningholm is still working. They still have the machinery. I could talk for ages about this, but I shouldn't, sorry. And it's amazing because since it was abandoned, it was left totally well preserved until 1921, when they have sort of a performance and tried it out, and they need to change some ropes that's sort of been eaten by rats or something, but otherwise it went quite well. And they have flats standing on chariots, and downstage they have very nice machinery that you could sort of doing like the anchor system for a ship. It's the same way of doing it. It's a very, very typical old thing that you all read about, that they were actually boatsmen doing the theaters. Yes, it is so. So this is the Drottningholm, and we have the Confidence in Ulriksdal as well, that have the same way of doing it. So that's pretty much my slides, I guess.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
A big thank you to all of us speakers. I do feel that I do feel like the realization in our life, that realization of we need to work together. I do think that's the birth of OISA, and that is why we have OISA centers. Before I open the floor for questions, I would like to follow up on what you have shared. So my first question is to Johan. You have briefly mentioned that the lack of technicians is something you are experiencing in Sweden. And can you share or can you elaborate a little bit more on why is that? And in addition to the lack of technicians, any other challenges that you faced in Sweden? And then my second question is to Melling. I am like very interesting in the shut up and create section. So can you share a little bit more, like how does that work? Like, do I when I participate in that event, can I open my mic or just do things? Like, how does that work? And then my question for Sia is the designer network, the social gathering, how does that work? I'm asking that. The reason is that I do hear from other OSA centers that they want to create something similar to this, but it's not that successful for them because it takes time and energy to keep the momentum. So that was my three questions for two out of three speakers. Johan, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. I mean, the lack of technicians is quite connected to the problem with the pandemic. When we have the pandemic, lots of people realize that being a chef is also a work, or maybe do gardening, or lots of other things. And then when the pandemic was over, they realized they had a life. They didn't work all night long. They didn't be away from their family. They didn't lots of things. But some of them get back, of course. But that being at the same time as lots of people in the theater were getting in the age of retirement, it was suddenly a sort of a strike by realization that we have lots of people that need to be on site now, because in 6 months, lots of other people will be away. And that is a really difficult task to solve in a short time. So it would still be a thing evolving, because when that's such a big need is triggered to a nation or to a society, there are lots of companies that start to solve the problem, and not every one of them are the best. And if they're having a sort of a well-funded production of work, educational possibilities, the need of doing a sort of a restriction of whether you know something about theater, or if you have your, like we say in Sweden, the thumb in the middle of the hand, because you can't really do anything practical because you haven't the skill. That is not really sought for. You just take people in, and then you need to get them out in the business. And there is the next problem, because even though it's good to have people working, they take time. So
Yeah,
you
that's
can't
true.
really, there will be a 3-month period or 6-month period to be determined that this is not the right person.
Mm.
But that place was taken by the wrong person,
Mhm.
and the right person was missed.
Mhm.
And the process is sort of bleeding, sort of. So hopefully it will be sorted out. But the other sort of challenge you mentioned is maybe a solution in itself, because we definitely sense in Sweden, and probably otherwise as well, that the lack of funding is
Mm.
increasing, sort of. I
Mm.
mean, since you don't have the possibility to do things, you do less. And in the end, there won't be any need for more
Mhm.
technicians.
Mm.
Hopefully, that's not the way. But there are different levels, and the state funding is going down and down and down, and the state representative says, maybe it could be sponsored or something. That would be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah,
That would be
sure.
nice. That would be
Yeah,
really
sure,
nice,
but
isn't it?
show me the
Sure.
money. That's not really happening because someone thinks it, unfortunately.
Mhm.
So that would be definitely a problem. So,
Mhm.
and of course, the technicians 30 years ago, the total scope of knowledge was sort of reachable, but the technician today in a theater,
Yeah, that's true.
I mean,
It's
it's
like explosive,
so
right? Yeah.
specific and so vast.
Mm.
Uh, so it's yeah, definitely change.
All
Thank you.
right. Thank you. And Malin?
Just to kind of build off what Johan was saying, we have a similar issue in Australia with a kind of lack of a significant lack of kind of experienced technicians, a lot who exited with COVID as well. And kind of one of the things I think is partly part of the problem is that there's a expectation now that employers will be able to find people rather than having to train people. There's a kind of loss of big casualization of technical theatre labour in Australia. So people employed by the hour rather than by the kind of ongoing roles. And so with that, there's kind of like an expectation that they'll come in knowing now not how to know how to do the job rather than being trained on the job by employers. And adding to this problem is the cuts of the courses, as I mentioned. So the university that I teach in, Queensland University of Technology, QUT, had a technical production course that is had its last intake last year or this year. So it no longer has people coming in. That course has been shut, which seems very counterintuitive because we have the Olympics in 32 in Brisbane,
Yeah. Yeah.
and all the people who put the Olympics on are performance technicians. Because all the
Yeah.
people who put on the
Yeah.
Commonwealth Games on the Gold Coast 3 or 4 years ago were people from the course. So there's
Mhm.
a real kind of lack of understanding, I think,
Mm.
from the training providers about what these courses are. So I just kind of got on my hobby horse there for a little minute. Just to answer your question, Angyong, about the shut up and create. So we use the Pomodoro technique, which is basically you kind of start the session with like setting some intentions. What's everybody working on? Where are you coming from?
Mm-hmm.
What's your goal for the session? And then we kind of lock in and turn our screens and mics off for 25 minutes or 20 minutes, depending on how long the conversation goes. And then we kind of come together on the half hour. So we kind of start, turn on our cameras and mics again at the half hour. How'd you go? Did you get your stuff done? What are you doing next? And kind of 5 minutes of chat and then going back into it. So it's kind of that, a recognition that, kind of 20 or 25 minutes of concentrated work is a good
Uh-huh.
kind of thing. And then
That's,
quite often
yes,
the
that's
brains
good.
need to come out of that anyway.
Yeah.
So they have a little social moment, share what you're doing, share what's going on, your work or your ecosystem, and then kind of, yeah, that's how it works. So we kind of are, headphones on and black boxes for kind of most of it, but there is that kind of social
Yeah,
interaction
next
as
slide.
well.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's very nice. I would love to participate. That's very, very nice. Like 25 minutes, like really
Yeah.
focus. And then you have this social moment where you can talk, and then that's really nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. And Zaya?
Yeah, I love the idea of that should have been create thing as well. I might bring that to our community. It's a great initiative. A lot of us will struggle to concentrate. For our networking events, we tend to we get like we apply for annual funding from the Arts Council for all the events that we run throughout the year, and that includes our networking events. And we employ on part-time basis a producer who works with us one day a week. So we then like plan our initiative. So with the Join the Dots, that was we hired a facilitator named Leanne Bell, who's a set designer as well as a kind of she works in she's multidisciplinary and runs a lot of kind of facilitatory kind of events. So we kind of planned with her how the events would run, and we set out kind of different times of the year and different locations, kind of based off where festivals are and where people tend to be at different times of the year. So there's going to be a big gathering in Cork in June for the Cork Midsummer Festival. Should we link our next gathering in around that? There's a quiet season, in early spring. Let's run one, in Dublin when the designers might have time to show up. And I mean, this different kind of. We tried to do. We did like 4 of them throughout the year, so like one kind of a quarter, and made sure that because so much stuff does tend to be Dublin centric in Ireland, to try and spread it out a bit so that people aren't always traveling to Dublin. Although there is a lot of people based in Dublin who then work and travel all around the country. So it kind of, we spread it out that way. But yeah, we planned the events in a way that having a facilitator really meant that they had a focus, and she kind of worked out, okay, when everyone gathers, we'll, kind of do a little activity together, kind of making name cards for other people in the group or whatever it was. And then and had like conversation starters as well. So like paired us up and then had a conversation starter, and we'd go on a walk through like a nice park, and then every kind of 10 minutes you'd stop and switch pairs, and then at the end we all went to the pub. So like you get like your moment to kind of meet people you've never talked to before, and maybe established designers meeting young designers or different theater makers, and that breaks the ice, and you've got these nice and you're out somewhere, bit of fresh air, or somewhere at least you're kind of out and about, which is nice. And then we all go to the pub at the end, and ISPD buys everybody a drink. Yeah. And people can stay and chat, and mingle as long as they want then. But yeah, having just kind of a relaxed meetup, but having somebody, so like our producer who can like announce the event 6 or 8 weeks before it's happening, send out reminders. To our membership, the events are free, but if you're not a member, you can still come, and it's like a nominal, like a €5 or €10 kind of cost. So it is open to kind of a broader kind of audience. And then to have somebody, so a facilitator who is also being paid, for their time on the day, who kind of makes a plan for it. So it's not just kind of everyone shows up and what we don't know. Yeah.
All right. So. That's great. Any questions from our audiences? If you have questions, just raise your hand digitally, so we could have your questions. If not, I am going to follow up on my 2 questions as more of like an international perspective. The first one is Um, if a theater practitioners would like to go to your country and then to do project or explore positive opportunities. So what's your suggestion to this person? That's the very first one. And then so yeah, I'll go the first one. So in terms of if a foreigner, say maybe artists or technicians would like to go to your country, what's your suggestion to this person? Or do they need
To
to
like come for work, you mean?
come
Or
for
kind
work?
of
Yeah,
just
come for
yeah, okay,
work.
gotcha.
Yeah,
So
come for
rather than
work.
kind of like what they should see or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come for work. Yeah.
And is it like how to enter the industry? I guess it's one of those things of like getting, there's quite a lot of international designers working in Ireland. A lot of people come in and do a course. So like they'll do a master's in design or something in Ireland, which gives them kind of a network. You know, you get to know, get to meet directors and directors and other designers and technicians. And that tends to be the best way of kind
the
of
best way.
integrating into industry. Or if you are hired, if you have like, if you're hired, if you come in if you already know people from the industry, but it does tend to be a kind of like people who hire who they know, like very much so. So like working in Ireland is very much a like job to job, you work with this person, you get on well. So that
And then you
networking
move
side
on
of
to the
things
other. Yeah.
is quite essential. And then yeah, and I guess if you're you might also have more like visa wise and all that going through the education system. We have had kind of an like unfortunate situation where if you don't, obviously if you work in Europe, then you can come and there's no issues. But we've had very talented designers whose visas, have ended. And even though they've been winning awards and getting recurring employment, they're now having to come over purely on single project basis, which is unfortunate.
Great,
Yeah,
thank
I
you.
would say similar to Zia, we kind of it's networks, it's who you know. So that kind of coming in and doing training is one definite way. Generally though, our training providers are quite competitive. It's quite competitive to do a uni course, but TAFE and colleges are less competitive, and so that's an option as well. And quite often those provide very good training. There is quite a few like kind of uh, technical theatre Facebook groups where work gets shouted around, across Australia. So that's kind of one way, but it ebbs and flows a lot, But I think potentially, particularly because of that festivalization, when there is, if people kind of are willing to kind of travel around and kind of shop their CV ahead so they can kind of like take advantage of those peak demand times, and being strategic with that would be kind of one way to kind of, coming in when there's everybody else is busy. Might be. Is a kind of a good way, and then at least you're starting to build your networks.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Johan?
Yeah, I would say that it depends definitely on what kind of work and what kind of person.
Like, for example, if our technicians would like to go
Yes,
there, be a
yeah,
technician, yeah.
I think the best way of start is to connect with the Oyster Center locally. For instance, in Sweden, we can help to facilitate contacts with suitable peers. And then we'll see. Like you have mentioned, that if you have a project that someone actually is searching or looking for a AV technician or something, that you have a specific talent, then it's could be easier. But it depends definitely on the specific situation.
All right. Thank you. My second question is also from the international perspective. It's actually about the funding circle of your country. Let's say if OSA headquarters would like to work with your center to develop an international project, how early should we start in terms of the funding circle of your country? Like how early? 18 months? 12 months? So what's the funding circle?
I would say more than
More
18
than
months.
okay, so
Yeah.
like 2 years,
But it's also depending on the cycles of the ruling side of the government, because things
Mhm.
tend to change. So it could be less, it could be
Okay.
more.
So, for example, if I would like to do something for OSTA's 60-year anniversary, which is 2028, I should start talking to you now, right? So, like something like that, right?
After the summer, yeah.
After summer, okay. Thank you. How about others?
So I guess it's kind of 18 months would probably be good.
18-ish, yeah.
So our funding, so like we submitted our funding application for our plans for PQ 2027 to the Irish Arts Council in March of this year. So we would be submitting our plans, and we will hopefully find out about that towards the end of this year to then make everything to do it. So you would want to be planning and be prepping your application to then submit the funding in the year in advance. So whether that's that our plans and discussions would happen, 18 months to 2 years to ready yourself for the funding application, but then you might not. Yeah. And then you have to like spend the money within that calendar year.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say we have a similar kind of, depending on which kind of funding scheme, whether you're going for a national or state kind of funding scheme or even a local government's funding scheme. But generally they're happening on a annual one time a year kind of cycle. So yeah, kind of like at least 18 months of to kind of make sure you're kind of getting the funds when you need to use them. But it also depends on how much money, there's kind of smaller grants of like $5,000 to $10,000 might be more frequent, whereas anything above that kind of figure is going to be more of an annual kind of round.
And following up question to Madeline, that do you have any specific funding for emerging artist or emerging designer? I saw in the structure is like smaller to medium, but it seems to be like company based, isn't it?
It's very company based. There is some funding pools for professional development. So that's quite often associated with going overseas. Kind of, there's a real sense that you go overseas to kind of do get professional development, though that is shifting. And kind of all working as an associate on a production or something like that. So there is kind of funding for that. That's not necessarily specific for sonographers or performance designers, performance design artists, but kind of open to everything. But yeah, most of the funding in Australia is orientated towards outcome project-based kind of things where you're supposed to produce something, which is why creative development funding can be really hard to receive. There is a few kind of small pots of funding through universities or through like the APDG has kind of the Thelma Afford Award, which is like funding for costume design, professional development for emerging professional costume designers. But those kind of earmarked funds are quite small. There is quite a few, though, I know of a growing number of artists who are using things like the Churchill Awards, which are kind of funding schemes that are associated with professional development for all kind of people from all sorts of areas and industries who are using those as kind of professional development spaces. So they're, I had a friend who went overseas and was learning how to do pattern making for men's suits, men's tailoring for opera and theatre, and kind of went over to and did a training course over in the UK with that pot of money. So, yeah, kind of there's people I think are starting to kind of savvy up to broader funding landscape and not going outside the arts for those sorts of opportunities.
Great, thank you. And my last question is about Oyster headquarters and community. As we are celebrating 20th anniversary of Oyster headquarters in Taiwan, how do you see the role of Oyster and its headquarters in today's theater world?
Who's going to go first?
Like a moment of silence. Who wants to go
I'm
first?
gonna pause and let someone else go first because I've got a bit of a cold, so I need to just.
Okay.
I guess it's that thing of these like outreach moments and whether or not there is kind of a sharing of kind of the processes across different countries, I find really fascinating.
Mhm.
And are there kind of supports or new kind of ways of working within like having these international events where you get to kind of meet up and see how like policy is happening, you know, in other countries, and are there elements of those conversations that you know Oyster can facilitate and kind of open up those conversations to kind of help support our then individual people in different countries by having, well, here's an example of how it's working better, or you know, those kind of elements. It opens up a kind of, I don't know, a wider network of information, which I think is very valuable.
Yeah. I would say similar thing, and also just kind of getting ideas about like the kinds of um, opportunities and infrastructure different centers offer. Like, so for example, I know in the UK, one of the kind of groups there, I can't remember which one it is, they offer their members cheap insurance as kind of part of their membership. And I was like, oh, that is such a good idea, you know, to kind of as a you know, a way to kind of
Yeah.
um ensure like encourage membership but also provide a really valuable service. So kind of hearing about ways in which yeah, the kind of the different centers kind of support their members through different mechanisms is really interesting and helpful. Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned that we are literally at the moment trying to see if we can set up a similar kind of insurance kind of pack with our membership. So things, initiatives like that exactly are really, really valuable. And then also you
Yeah.
get inspiration, like even just seeing the art from other nations and
Yeah,
countries.
that is very true. Yeah, right. To
Yes,
get inspiration.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
kind of,
fantastic.
lots of kind of creative ideas, you know, being exchanged and kind of going, oh, you know, how did they do that? How did, you know, kind of,
Yeah.
why did they do that? So, you know, being able to talk to other artists and hear about their practices. Yeah, it's really good. So there's that kind of like, how do we improve the system overall? And then how do we improve the art overall?
Exactly. And also the idea of being together in other country. That's
Yeah.
also quite
That's
funny.
so funny.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
quite funny. Yeah.
I would believe that sometimes we are on a really big level or high level of abstraction, and then everything is sort of quite easy to understand. But sometimes I really want to have the urge to know, how do you properly wash your brushes in the
Yeah,
best way?
that's true. Yeah.
And
That's
other
very true.
specific
Like
details that suddenly,
specifically, how do you do that? Like
yeah,
how? Tell me
that's
how.
sort of deep
Yeah.
down in the details would be
Absolutely.
very interesting.
Absolutely. Any last call questions? Any questions? No? If no, I'm going to close the section. Let's give a round applause to our speakers. Where's my digital hand? Trying to, yes.
I
We
think
have one
Michael has a
question.
question.
Sorry.
Right.
Where's did I make? Michael. Hello. Hi, Michael.
Hello. Hello, and hello to all of you. This has been a very interesting gathering and presentation. First of all, to the main office, I think putting it together was a very good thing. I was wondering what this was going to be like. Some of you who don't know me, some of the speakers who've been doing this as well, I'm a longtime OISTAT member. I was president for a while and was involved from moving the OISTAT Center from Holland, from Amsterdam to Taipei 20 years ago, I guess it was, way when. And what's interesting to me about this group is whether it was planned or not, it turned out to be you got somebody sort of representing technicians, somebody representing designers, a couple people, but also representing education. These are all aspects of what OISTAT has done. In my experience, I have been part of the Education Commission. I'm a lighting designer. I was part of Sonography back when it was a single organization, as well. Being a lighting designer, you're an electrician, so I was part of the Technology Commission and been involved with various commission meetings through all of this. And it was interesting to me to see Ellen Marie is, I can see, I don't know if she's on or not. Her name is there. She's pushing stage management as part of what OISTAT should be presenting. And I think that's also an area that I've observed in all of these places. I mean, actually the four of you, the four countries that are representing, I've been to all of those countries visiting and talking to designers. I taught at Trinity, I taught in Taipei, and I've been involved with Scandlight in Sweden for many of the past Scandlights. So it's all of this representation, I think, is indirectly part of what OISTAT is involved with. And I can believe that that wasn't what you planned in putting it together that way, but listening to the
It is
presentation.
actually.
So, in addition to those geographical areas and the issues around, there are those specific areas. So good, I want to say good for you. Thank you. And
Thank
thank you for the
you.
good work. And thank you to all who were here part of it.
All right, thank you. It is what we are planning for. So because this is the very first section, we would like to have this representation of what OSA is. So we have designers and technicians and also educators, yeah, for this section.
Yeah, I'll say one last thing, which
Sure.
there's a smaller group here, but in my experience with OISTAT, the most important thing, or what has benefited me the most, is contact with individuals like you all that we're working in the same business and in quite different ways and in quite different places, but being able to know and understand you guys as people, as whatever your lives are outside of theater, as well as what you do in theater, has been an important part to show that we're not only theater people, we're all part of humanity. So
yeah, that's
thank you for putting this together.
Thank you. Thank you all. So this is the very first one. In July, we will be having our second OSA Global Exchange. So keep an eye on our social media and website. I hope to see you in our next OSA Global Exchange. Thank you all. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.